Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today and tuning into the You podcast. I'm Kyra Oliver, and our guest today is so special to me for many reasons. She is a Southern style influencer dedicated to celebrating life from everything or with everything from fashion to home, fashion on your body, fashion at home, makeup, everything you can imagine, but as well as self-care. It's kind of a, I don't know, might say a holistic approach to life and really living it to the fullest. I just love her energy, but here's what's really special. She is from my hometown. That's right. Livingston, Tennessee, small town, Tennessee, population 4,058 people. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Airica, how are you? Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so glad you're here. I just love seeing the family photos in the background and everything. It just, gosh, I miss home so much.
We're ready for spring in Tennessee.
I bet.
And a long winter.
Yeah, I didn't get to go home this year because of COVID and all of that. And I was worried about my dad, and I just didn't want him, you know the story. And so I haven't been home in a really long time. I just miss you all so much. In fact, I think the last time I saw you was at the little book signing.
Yeah, when I came for your book signing. Yes, that was awesome. So awesome. Do you think you'll be back to go to the lake this summer and everything?
I hope so. That's the plan, is to get back and hang out at the lake. So actually that's a good segue to, let's talk about the lake and how, so we're from the same town, obviously, and you knew my brother Darren though a little bit more because, well, he still lives there. Like, he went to school and everything, but he also works for my dad, and
Right.
we're living there in the same town.
Right. So your family's always on the paper, the local paper. And so I've always been involved with different sports events at school and different things to drop off at the paper. And then we had a boutique and we would advertise through your family's paper when I was growing up. And then I knew Darren from different avenues. And as we came back, my husband and I, and started our family and career in this town, I used Darren to do our business logo. And so there's just lots of different things throughout the years, and then cleaned his teeth as a hygienist and so many different things like that. So
love that.
Yeah.
Well, that then makes me, before I jump to one thing I want to talk about, I do want everyone to understand the lake. I mean, if you have not, and there's actually, I don't think you can see it really. Yeah, see in the background?
Oh, yeah, that's gorgeous.
Okay, so
did Darren take that?
He did, and that's Irons Creek.
Awesome.
And if you guys have not been to Dale Hollow Lake, I mean, you must go. It's beautiful. It's pristine. It is just the most precious place to grow up.
Mm-hmm. It is. And having a business here, it's unbelievable how many people are moving here and retiring now. It's always kind of been our hidden gem, and the words got out.
I know.
So I know everybody wants to move here now. And I'm always like, how did you find us? It's New York. It's Texas. I just talked to someone from Lubbock, Texas, who moved here. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did you find our little town? Like you said, with a zero population. And that's what they always say, that they either the lake or they loved Tennessee and just looked for a good central location.
Yeah. Well, and that suddenly brought a memory up. Now, I'm not sure, I think this might have been the same for you, but when I was in high school, our weekends was going up and down the strip.
I knew that's what you were going to say. My mother said hers was sitting at the Blue Circle, but ours was the strip. Yes, it was. I dated my 8th grade boyfriend, and so I didn't do a lot of the strip because he would just come to my house or I would go to his, to be honest. But all my girlfriends did the strip. That's where you went to talk to people and meet people. So
yeah, exactly. Now let's talk about the fact that you and LG, right? LG Puckett, you guys met in, or I guess started going out in 8th grade. Is that right?
Yes. So we in a small town, as you explained that we grew up in, you know a lot of people already. And my husband is LG, but he was LG Puckett the fourth. And so there was other LGs that already had a name in our town, and they were great men. And so I knew of the family and everything, but he had sent word, cute story. This shows my roots of a small town too. My uncle was the baseball coach at the city park. And so there was several boys who went to his house frog gigging after baseball. And so somehow LG at the time, he was summer before his sophomore year, he dropped his wallet and stuff fell out near the pond. And my brother was there and picked it up, and it happened to be one of my class pictures, which back then we didn't have social media. So that's what you did. You ordered your school pictures, wallets, and when you got your 8 wallets, you gave it to your 8 closest friends. That's what we did back then. And so he had one of my pictures. Well, I didn't give it to him. He was 2 years older than me, and he wouldn't have dared ask me for a picture. And so my brother said, "How did you get my sister's picture?" And he dusted it off, and he said, "I'm going to marry her one day." And that's how the story goes. And so from then on, that was the summer before his sophomore year. And by the fall of his sophomore year, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I was in 8th grade. I said, "I can't be your girlfriend. I can't even ride with you for years." And he said, "That's okay. I'll wait." So he did. He waited. So we got to actually ride in the same vehicle together for the first time the summer he was going away to college, and he moved away 2 hours to college. So he was my boyfriend all the way through school, but until I was old enough, his dad would take us to the athletic banquets. He would escort us. He would drive us both there, or I couldn't date until I was 16. So he was over 18 by the time I turned 16. And so I thought it was just awful at the time, but I've grown up to realize that my parents' conservativeness, them being so conservative, was actually such a blessing to me. When at the time I thought they were just, overbearing.
How
And
could you?
so hard to deal with, but really and truly, they saved me from a lot of heartache and mistakes. I truly believe that.
Yeah, it's hard to see a normal thing, hard for us as children or kids or teenagers to see that. But looking back, I mean, I loved growing up in a small town. Just so grateful for that.
Yes, there's a lot of parts to it.
Yeah, for sure. So now he went to college, and then you eventually joined him there?
So he went to college, and I love cheerleading, which you were a cheerleader also, I know.
Oh, hi, guy.
That's right. And so I just took so much pride in the high school that we attended. I would have thought it was the #1 private high school in the entire state, if you ask me. And anyone who really knows, there's no private to it at all. It's the only high school that's your option in our county. But that's how much pride I took in our high school. It would have been my choice in the whole state. I mean, it was just such a good school. I loved it, still love the school. And so my goal was always to cheer at high school there. And for those of you who don't know, back in the day, there wasn't people who came in and selected the cheerleaders on their abilities. You were elected 10 cheerleaders to represent the school. And there was about 900 students when I was in school. And that was the late 90s. I graduated in 99. And so the student body selected 10 girls to be the cheerleaders. And so you might make it one year and not the next,
Oh, that was hard. I remember I had to try out in front of the student body as well. And it was like, and that reminds me too of, do you know Trina Gore?
Yes.
Okay. So Trina, the late Trina, we miss her so much. She
tried her daughter.
Oh, I know. And she tried out with me one year, and it was amazing. She did a cartwheel and fell in front of the student body. And she gets up and says, "Hold on," does it again. And she ended up getting selected.
So she made the team?
She did.
Yay. Her daughter was an incredible cheerleader.
I know.
Such a good cheerleader. She was precious. She was a dear patient of mine as well. And, but there's a good point to that. You don't necessarily always get the best qualified cheerleaders when it's the student and body voting, but you get the people that they want to represent you. And so you don't get too catty or too, full of yourself, because you're there to represent the school, and they won't reelect you if you do, so I did like that part of it, because that is what a cheerleader is. They're a representation of the whole body, and they're to be there for the whole school. Absolutely. Not just the sport,
Yeah. Now, so you went to college. Did you continue cheering there or anything? Or did you just?
Yes. So my goal was to cheer for the Vols. That was always my dream, to cheer for UT. So I went for, it was a 2-weekend tryout. I went for the first pre-tryout because my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, was going to college there, as we said. And so the whole time I had said, I'll be there in 2 years. I'll be there. And when I got to that tryout, I was so homesick. I mean, this girl from this small town, never been away from home. And I go for that tryout. Besides the stress of it all, I was away from my mom and dad. That was just it. That's what it was. And I was homesick for home. And so I didn't eat the whole weekend. I was stressed out. And I remember like battling, because I had backed myself against a corner for so many years and said I was going to cheer for the Vols. I was going to cheer for the Vols. And then all of a sudden that wasn't what I wanted, you know? And so I decided I wouldn't try out there. I'd already made some other teams. I had tried out at Tennessee Tech for practice, really thinking, oh, this will be good experience for the next tryout. But that's where I needed to be. And so I ended up not going to the second tryout for the Vols. I'll never know how that would have worked out. But instead, I went to Tennessee Tech and cheered for Golden Eagles, and he transferred to Tech.
Ah,
So his 2 years at UT quickly switched to Tennessee Tech.
that's so awesome. But this is where the whole dentistry came in. What were you guys studying?
Yes, he was actually pre-med at the time. And I was dental hygiene always. I had grown up in a dental family. My mother had been a dental assistant my whole life. And he worked that summer to help at the dental practice that she worked at to help out, and fell in love with the field of dentistry. So he switched from medical to dental. He loved the idea of being off on the weekends, being with his kids on holidays and everything. So he ended up switching his major. We got engaged when he graduated from college, and both applied to dental school and moved to University of Tennessee in Memphis then to go to dental school and hygiene school.
Okay, great. And so how long were you there? And there's a transition, I guess, to move back
Yes.
to Livingston. Okay.
Yes. So dental school is 4 years. And so he was in the first year. Hygiene school is only 2 more years. So it's 2 years undergraduate. And then you have to be accepted to hygiene program. Same as nursing. It's pretty much the same prerequisites for 2 years. And then you get accepted into the allied health program. So he was accepted the first year, and I waited because I knew we had plenty of time for me to get in school. And so the following year I was accepted. And so starting his sophomore year of dental school, his D2 year, is when I started hygiene school. And we had a very challenging first year away. It was wonderful for our marriage because, like I said, I had been the one that was homesick to go away to college. 2 years later, here I am, 4.5 hours away from home and married. But it was wonderful. I had grown a lot in those 2 years, and it was really good for our marriage to have no one that we knew but each other. I think that's great for marriages when you first move, when you first get married, so that you don't cling to mom or dad or the best friend or someone down the road, but you just have each other. And so that ended up being a great blessing. But we had not been there but maybe 6 months. In the February of that year, I came home actually for a doctor appointment, a wellness appointment. And I had been having some issues, and I had been misdiagnosed actually several times, but didn't realize that I was diagnosed correctly with anxiety attacks and spastic colon. And I was having a lot of weight loss, running to the restroom, a rapid heart rate, just different things. And so when I was home for that wellness appointment, my heart acted up while I was in the doctor's office. It was all the providence of God, and ended up, I had an emergency pacemaker put in. So I was 21 at the time, and I didn't go back to school. I mean, this happened really quick. So days.
For just a moment, describe when you say your heart acted up. I mean, what actually happened? You went from, feeling one thing to you're getting a pacemaker. So
exactly. Well, so I had several episodes, and I was living with this daily, being told it was anxiety. And so, and spastic colon because of the weight loss. I continued going. I'm like, anxiety shouldn't make me lose weight. I'm eating regularly, was going to the bathroom just constantly. If I had a 20-minute drive, I might stop 2 to 3 times. That was no exaggeration. So it became to where it was controlling my life because I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to go experience new things because there might not be a restroom. There might not be the opportunity for me to to go. And that sounds so bizarre now when I think about it, but that's how I lived. I would panic to think I was going to get in a traffic jam because I might not be able to get to a restroom. And it was starting to control my life. And what it was actually my heart stopping. And so they explained that the electrical part of my heart was not beating. So all of a sudden I'd be talking just like you and I are right now. And I would just be calm and sitting. And all of a sudden my heart would go to 180 beats a minute because it actually skipped a couple beats and it wouldn't beat at all. Then it tries to spike its own pacemaker and make it start beating again. So it was going from 0 beats to 180. And so it was what was causing my body to react. They explained it as if you had came up on a really bad accident, the adrenaline rush. So that's what my colon was doing, just on and off. It would just be like a severe adrenaline rush, and it would cause spasms in the colon and all my organs, really. And so that day in particular, sitting in the doctor's office, he had been talking to me and knew I was in from college and everything for that particular appointment. That's why I was home. And he said, "How's things going?" I said, "Good, but I'm still having worry in the middle of the night. Sometimes I just wake up. It wakes me up with my heart. I can see it beating in my chest. It's beating so rapidly." And he said, "Well, what do they think it is? Are they still saying it's just anxiety?" And I said, "Yeah." And my husband just wonders if I'm having bad dreams, but I can't remember them. And he says, "Well, we'll see." And he's listening with his stethoscope. And he keeps moving to the front, to the back, to the front. And I said, "You're kind of making me nervous. You've been doing that a long time." And he said, "Well, I'm hearing a heart murmur, or what I think is a murmur." And he said, "I don't want you to go back until my buddy checks this out," meaning his cardiologist friend. And so during my exam, my heart started doing what it would do in the middle of the night, which I had not been able to catch it. By the time I would go to the ER, anytime I had an episode, it was over. You get there and they hook you up to an EKG. Well, that's over. So I'd never been able to really pinpoint it and them see what I was feeling. And your body better than anyone. I really believe that. You know when something's off. And so I was telling him, I said, "You know what? It's doing it right now." And he came up and checked my pulse, and it was 160, and it had just spiked up. And so he said, I want you to go on and see my cardiologist now." And so I went to a general cardiologist, and they felt certain that a lot of girls can do that in their 20s. And here I was just 21, young, because of hormonal changes, or if you're just going on a new type of a birth control or anything, or you've even heard of a lot of ladies with their pregnancy having the pregnancy murmurs and then they go away. So they really felt like I was one of those girls. It was a hormonal thing. And he said, "I really think you don't need to take any type of birth control at all. Let's just do away with that." And I looked at him and I said, "You just don't understand. I didn't know this doctor till that day." But I said, "I just got married last year. We're poor. We have no money. My husband's in dental school. We're living in Memphis, Tennessee. I can't get pregnant. I've still got school to do." And he said, "Well, I'm going to have to put you on a beta blocker at the end to control this, because this isn't healthy for your heart rate elevating like this." And I said, "That's fine." Well, that's another providence of God sign, because before you're to be put on a beta blocker, you're to wear a monitor to make sure they're not missing anything.
Right.
Because had I taken that beta blocker to slow my heart rate that night, I don't know if it would have spiked back up.
And for our guest, just to make sure, I want them to understand what a beta blocker is. So it does ultimately help keep the heart rate slow.
Elevated. Yes. Yeah. And it slows it down, like you say. So they were just, all they knew about my heart at that point was me telling them how it would start racing and beating really fast. So we didn't know why it was doing that, which was the important part. And so they were saying, we're going to put you on something to get the heart rate down, but you got to wear this monitor first. So I'm thinking, just like we all do, I have not got time for that. When can we just get to the end of this and get me on some medicine?
Right.
So put on the monitor. They tell me to return it back in 2 days. I remember that night, my husband was back in Memphis, and I remember having pizza with my parents, because here I'm home without my husband for a few days and going to Bible study with them and everything. And when we get back to reading, all of those times, my heart was stopping for up to 3.4 seconds at a time. I wasn't passing out. I was carrying on a conversation just like I am right now. I would sometimes get dizzy. I can remember kind of feeling dizzy. or like at the grocery store hanging on to the cart for a second because you just feel lightheaded. And that's in those moments when I would think, I didn't have enough sugar today, or I should have ate better. You have an excuse for everything.
Mhm.
And so those were the things I was telling myself. And so when they read that monitor and saw that my heart had been stopping, of course they call immediately and say you're going to need an emergency pacemaker. It's called Mobic tube block, the actual technical term for my heart. And so it's an electrical part of the heart that no longer tells the heart to continue firing. And so I rely on my pacemaker a certain percentage of the day. It's not a lot, but any percentage you rely on it for living. So it was never been like, it's the biggest blessing. I have never felt so good as when I woke up from surgery, because I had been living with that symptoms slowly building for like 2 years. The etiology behind why I have my pacemaker is still unknown. But there's very inclusive testing a lot for a lot of different diseases, and Lyme's disease is one of those that people can be tested multiple times before they actually get a positive or an accurate answer. And so my electrocardiologist that I then was transferred to, he specializes in so much of this. And he was telling me that he really feels certain that I had Lyme's disease from a deer tick that went undetected as a child. He had no idea my medical history, and I was very sick in 3rd and 4th grade. There was that time that we went back and read the charts, and I had never been tested for Lyme's disease at that age. So that all plays into where it really does make sense. And where we live it's very common for the deer ticks, and it's very common to carry the Lyme's disease and things like that. And so, and I do remember I always had long hair. I do remember mom getting ticks off, my head in different places.
Right.
So, I mean, that could have been very possible as to what it was, but we still don't know. But definitely, the pacemaker has changed my life. I can travel. I don't have those symptoms anymore. It was a blessing.
How does it affect your exercise?
Well, for a while, it was hard mentally more than it was for my actual heart, because I heard him say, "Wow, girl." He whistled out loud when he was looking at my paperwork, this electrocardiologist, as soon as I met him. And he was like, "It's a wonder you're not a statistic." He said, "You should have been one of the statistics on the ball court." Or he looked at my husband and he like put his hand out to shake him, and he said, "Man, it's a wonder she did not wake up one morning." And because what that monitor showed for just those 2 days that I wore it, it showed that it stopped multiple times. And most people have passed out and had some signs before then. 3.4 seconds is a long time, actually, for
sure.
and that affects everything when the heart's not beating. It affects it all. And so the oxygen, everything. And so that was actually pretty unbelievable that it all felt like it did. It was just, like I said, all the providence of God. But when I started exercising, that would come to my mind, and I'm like, am I just going to fall over? It was more that trusting it.
Be careful. Yeah.
Yes.
Do too much. Yeah.
Yes. But he kept reassuring me, you're healthy. The muscle of your heart's healthy. It's the electrical part. And now we've got this backup system, that that it's going to work for you. And so after I got over that, I was great with it. And it actually became a very good mental thing for me. Exercise for me is a good mental, it's a good escape, So I like to throw around the weights. I like to run until I can't do it anymore, just because I feel like I got a lot out. I get a lot of thinking done during that time.
And I love that you're saying that, because exercise is one of the things that saved my life. So God's number one, which I love. We both have that shared faith, and I just love that you share that with others. Thank you so much for doing that, because I do want to inspire people to lean in where they can. Things got really tough for me, and I ended up visiting my aunt and uncle Danny and Harlena. You know them, and ended up giving my life back to Jesus Christ on a visit to South Carolina. I had no clue that was going to happen. So I grew up with my grandmother going to church, and then that happened many years later, and it was just so perfect. But exercise, I started running, had no idea I was a runner. So I love that you're sharing this story, because exercise saved my life. You, it sounds like, started out after this happened, you were a little hesitant, but you didn't let it hold you back. Like, you gave it some time, but once you realized, like, I'm actually okay, then you started embracing exercise as part of your lifestyle. Is that right?
Correct. And like I said, the medical doctors told me there's no reason you can't. You
Good.
know, it's perfectly fine for you to work out. You've got this good muscle. You've got, go for it. And as you know, it helps us. And it's another thing that's incredible for the oxygen and everything. And I did start slower. I started with Pilates and things like that. That wasn't going to be so much of necessarily a cardiac,
Right. Like just getting the heart. Yeah.
exactly.
In that situation. Well, and what I love about this conversation is, and to all of our listeners, we do want to make it clear, you do need to be careful, whatever you're what may be going on in your life, check with your doctor, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also want to inspire our listeners to realize is don't use things as an excuse. Check with your doctor, make sure you do things correctly, ease into it if you need to or whatever. And then if you're able, definitely embrace exercise because it's a game changer in life.
Right. And don't forget to tell them every symptom. And if you think you're going to forget, write them down, because
Right.
sometimes it's that one thing that we don't take as a symptom or very serious that clicks with them exactly what's wrong with you. I know when I finally said to them, I saw my general doctor, and then they sent me to a cardiologist who then sent me to an electrocardiologist all in a week. And I can't remember at what point, which one I actually finally said, because they all ask, so now what were your symptoms? What was,
Right.
and I would say, well, after our lesson at church, when I would stand up, I would have to hang on to the pew in front of me because I'd been sitting for the sermon and I would stand up. But I said, I never take time to eat breakfast in the mornings. Again, I had an excuse for myself. Well, that was like a light bulb went off in their head, because you're sitting for 35 minutes for a sermon, and then you stand up, all of a sudden it does something to the blood pressure. Mm-hmm. And my body couldn't handle that. So I would hang on to the pew in front of me because I would be just kind of swaying, and then I would get, used to it. I didn't think that was a symptom to tell about. I thought it was because I didn't, I spent too much time doing my makeup instead of grabbing breakfast is what I thought,
Right.
But they, so I don't think you can overshare too much with your doctors. If it's important to you, it's important to them.
Say it. Yeah. Well, I love that. And I want to thank you for sharing that story before we move on. And just, again, listeners, make sure you take good care of your health, write it down. Don't be afraid to say it, speak up, because if you're able to determine what's going on, there may be, a solution of some sort that's going to give you a better, richer life. And we want you to have that. So
exactly.
I love that you then kept working through it, you persevered, and so then you had this healthy lifestyle going on. But now I want to shift to what is going on in your life right now, like some of this awesome thing that you're doing. And I'm going to let you talk about this, but I believe AP style is what you're calling it, for Airica Puckett style.
Correct.
And where did this idea come from? Like, what happened?
It's like someone, just like a patient, actually 2 patients, had told me years ago, you should totally start a blog. And I didn't follow blogs myself. So I was like, I don't have time for that. You don't understand. I can barely send an email. That's what I thought. And which I'm at that generation. I graduated high school in 99. And so it's true. We're in that gap where we were taught typewriting, and then like 2 years later, they started teaching all of the digital and all the computer. I didn't have a computer science class. And so I feel like we fell kind of right in the middle of that gap. So I was always intimidated by the idea that I needed to do a blog when people would say that. And they would say, you just have so much to share. This would be so fun. And if you know me on a personal level, I already celebrate everything in life. I just love that. And part of that comes from my mother, from my childhood. She made anything special. If she made Jell-O, she put it in a little antique pedestal dish and had it in the fridge chilling and would bring it out. Just our Jell-O was special. It wasn't just Jell-O. Mom just made everything really cool. And so I would always like to look up for my children. I wanted them to have those memories of me. And so I would look up like national holidays, National Pizza Day, National Waffle Day, and I always would try to celebrate those things at the house. And so I decorate my island, or, for every little thing, the Masters, the Derby, not necessarily just a holiday, but I want my kids to have those memories that mom could celebrate anything. You don't have to have a birthday. You don't have to have something, that you did that's spectacular. There's so many things in life that we just need to celebrate. And so I already did those things. And finally, I had just like I said, I had the two patients prior telling me that. And I noticed that I had started watching bloggers. I'd got introduced to Instagram and I started watching some myself and had become friends with some. And I thought, you know what? These people are all in a big city. I'm in a small town. I have a lot to show them and offer for a small town. And no one does themes. No one I was following at the time did anything that was theme related. And I don't know, it interests me. I thought maybe it would interest someone else. And our staff that particular year had bought us tickets to the Kentucky Derby. They knew it was something on our bucket list to attend, my husband and I. And so it was about 2 weeks before the Derby. And I had already decorated my whole house for the Derby. I mean, if there was a horse sitting somewhere, it had a bow tie around its neck. So just the simple things, you know. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to share this. I'm going to take pictures of some of the things I've done because someone else might want to do that in their home. And so I started sharing it on my page. And I just decided when I woke up one morning having my coffee, by lunch, I was going to be Airica Puckett style, not just Airica Puckett. And I turned it into a business that day, mentioned it to my husband, and he said, go for it. And so we're just in its second year. So it's not quite been 3 years yet, but it's true. You've got to have thick skin with it. There is a lot of people love to be very judgmental, but it not only has my skin thickened, my confidence has, because I've learned that I'm who I am and it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want someone to watch me or follow me if I don't bring them joy. You know, and that there's something about that. I wish I could figure out what that is and bottle it up and give it to every teenage girl, because I wish I had been that way my whole life, you know?
Absolutely. This is absolutely precious because it is so important. We have to inspire our youth to understand just how beautiful and precious and valuable they are.
Mhm.
And how even that confidence in and of itself can inspire anybody around them.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love that. I love that you brought this. It's so much deeper than what, some may realize. And that's why I love that we're sharing this story today.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then the other part is that you become an entrepreneur. I mean, you already were with your business with your husband, but now
Mhm.
you're kind of doing your own thing. So, and it is really growing. I've been following you for a while, and I'm just so impressed. So, tell us a little bit more about it. So you went from Airica Puckett style to, are you calling it AP style or?
Well, it's just the short term for it is AP style, but I did, I started it off not knowing, how it was going to turn out. I did reach out to someone I had admired that I noticed I had been following that lived in a big city. And I reached out to them and I said, what do you think? And their advice was grow thick skin. And I thought, well, I'm not running for office. I can't imagine that, but they were right. I figured that out pretty quick, like I said. But I took those hard times and I grew by them. When someone was mean, I wanted to show them, I hate that you were very judgmental early about me. You don't really know me. I would have been a good friend to you. And that's why, it actually turned my mentality to where I felt sorry for that person instead of being mad or punishing myself for someone else's comment. So like I said, that made me grow and my business grew because I just tried being real with people. And about that time, about 5 or 6 months into my Airica Puckett style, I had a lot of people say, we start a blog. Will you start a blog? Well, the AP style was at that time only on Instagram. And so I was saying in my stories, that was just starting, stories were then also. And I said, well, if I hit 5,000 followers, I'll start a blog. And I mean, it was no time. So started my blog at 5,000 followers. And then I think I told them, they kept wanting me to do a house tour. And I said, if I hit 10,000 followers, I'll do a home tour. And so a company came in and we did little interviews and did room by room where I had remodeled our 1979 ranch style home. And so we did that at 10,000. We just had different little things along the way, but I've gotten so connected to so many of these sidekicks. And I love that we're there for each other. They're there for me as a sidekick and I'm there for them. They're not just a follower. They're not a number on my screen. I answer every single direct message they send me. If you send me an email or a contract, you're trying to hire me for something, I'll let my team talk to you, which most people think is backwards. Most entrepreneurs would tell you, you handle the business side of it, but I want to handle being me and I want someone else handling the business side of it. So I know these people that send me the direct messages and that need a prayer request or have this going on. And because it's a lifestyle page. Yeah, I'll share everything, but it's a lifestyle, it's being there for one another along the way. And then things that work for me, things that don't work for me, I share that with people, whether it's travel or, motherhood or just so many avenues. And so I try to do the weekly themes for people who are just interested in a styled post or an idea like that. But my actual, and that's my post, but my actual lifestyle, real life is all in my stories. Just a day to day.
So I want to go back for just a second. You said something that I think is really special and unique. You said prayer request. We're there. We're here to be there for each other. And I could not agree more. So do you get a lot of that? Like
Tons. I know stories about these sidekicks that's unbelievable. And sometimes they will even say to me, I haven't told anyone else this. And I love that they feel connected enough to me that they can do that. I have a particular sidekick who lost their first child to cancer years ago, and their second child right now has been denied by 2 different hospitals and finally found someone to care for them with the most rarest of cancers, their only child they have left. I pray for that family just all the time. I've never met them in person, but I'm going to one day. That's one of a gazillion stories I can tell you because I had one night that this girl almost died in childbirth. Her family was reaching out to me. I could just go on and on. I had one this morning. I've had COVID issues, where they've lost them. I was praying for them. It's so, the prayer request is probably the biggest thing actually that I get in direct message. And then these people get to know you, and then they trust you for something else that you might recommend to them. And that's not necessarily how I started my page. I just started being me, but there's been times it's been a hard winter for me as well. There's been a lot of challenges. I almost lost my husband to COVID. If you're a regular follower, you know that. And it was very unexpected. My husband's 41. He works out 7 days a week. He's in the best shape of his life. He's a physician himself. It was very surprising and very rough. And he had 2 pulmonary embolisms. So I cared for him at home because of a long line of stories and everything. And so that was a tough winter. And then my grandmother got diagnosed from back pain one day that she found out she was eaten up with cancer, and we buried her 5 weeks later. And she's a big part of my life. And if, like I said, if you follow me, my influencer page is a little bit more like a reality show, but it's a real show instead of, being an artificial or Hollywood show. It's just a behind the scenes. So you get to know my family members, you get to know things going on. And so everyone knew Granny Ann, and they were close to her too. And then I lost this precious lady in my life so quick. And then we had this huge just ice storm here, which is just, nothing really when you think about what's important in life. But, we're out without power for a week. And it just seemed like, when you get hit on one side and then you get hit on the other side, when you turn, sometimes I was the one asking for prayer requests. I've had for a year where they asked me for prayer requests, but I was the one saying, hey, I need y'all. I need it right now. This is what's going on.
I love that. And that's what I actually wanted to lean into as well, is the fact that all these things were going on. You're trying to keep this business going. You're trying to be support for everybody, but you need support. I mean, so obviously you're not afraid to ask too. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. We all go through times like that. I know you and I both know because we've been through different situations, but first off, I ask God, but I believe in the power of prayer and numbers too, and I want to know other people are praying for me, and I'm not afraid to say I need it. I need it all the time, but there's times in life when you're just like, I don't know what it is. I know I think I said this in my stories, and I know I said this to a few people in messages, but I would say, I don't know if God's trying to tell me something, because it just seems like, it's every time you catch your breath, there's another one. But really and truly, when I started thinking about it, I felt so selfish for saying that, because God spared my husband. We had some serious dark talks when he thought he was about to die. And we've been there now, and he spared his life. And I know how precious that is. And then my grandmother, yeah, I lost her, but I had her healthy for 79 years. Right. And if I wanted to dwell in the bad side of all of it, I could. But when I really look at it, no one was hurt in our ice storm. Trees fell all over my entire house. but no one was underneath those trees, and so I had a warm place to go stay for that week that the power was out. I mean, there's always something you can look for. It's whatever attitude you want to have, really. When you wake up that morning, do I want to find the good in this situation or this day, or do I want to dwell on the bad? Because there can be a good and bad in every day.
Absolutely. I talk a lot on my podcast and in my motivational speaking about the mindset. And it really, truly, it's not about pretending stuff didn't happen at
Right.
all. It's, let's embrace what happened. Let's appreciate, whatever it is we need to do. Maybe we don't understand things all the time. And then, maybe we don't just sit in that negativity for long periods of time. It's like, okay, it's now time to shift that and let's see, where we can take it. So thanks for sharing that, because I think sometimes people don't realize what others go through. They think, oh, everything looks perfect and all of these things. And it's like, no, actually, it's not. It's hard.
Right.
It's hard for all of us. It's how you handle it. It's how you manage it that can really create a beautiful life that you appreciate. And obviously, God is such a huge part of that for both of us.
Right. And it's okay to say, today I'm just not going to be okay.
Right.
Like, it's okay to just say it's not a good day. It's okay to cry all day. And that's what I've told my children too. They've experienced a lot in the last 6 months. They were in our home when their dad almost died. And then they've lost a grandparent. And then they almost lost my father-in-law to COVID. He was very ill and in the hospital for weeks. And I'm like, it's okay to talk about things out loud. Because for so long, it's like people don't do that. And I almost feel like our younger generation, they'll text it before they would tell you. They text things to their friends, but they don't really talk. They don't verbalize the way they're feeling. And it's okay to just say, I just want to cry today. I don't have to have a reason for it. But tomorrow I'm going to realize that there is goodness in all of this. Yes. And we're not going to get more than we can handle or bear in this life. And there is another side to the world one day, No,
that's great. It reminds me of a podcast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brene Brown, but she's phenomenal out there. And she was just talking about toxic positivity and how so many people will just shoot out all these positive things, but they never actually embrace how they truly feel.
I have not heard that, but that is so true. Yeah.
It's super important. Positivity, I think, is huge and important. I love it.
Yes.
It's not, again, about sweeping it under the rug. It's just like,
be real. Just be real about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of positivity, though, I do want you to talk a little bit about, AP style, more like, tell us some of the things that you're doing with that, because it is beautiful. It's exciting. It inspires me all the time. So
thank you. I love it. I really feel like, say, by my degree, I'm a dental hygienist, but my business grew so much, what started off as a little hobby, that after, about this past fall, so less than 2 years, I actually set aside my hygiene job that at our family business and went to work full time for AP Style, just because it got very demanding, which I love. I feel like I have found my niche in life in my late 30s. Like, I love it. And so there's all avenues of it, because it is lifestyle. So it's every avenue of life that I'm doing, but I work with different companies for different things. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me and ask me if I would like start my own line or my own boutique or something like that. That's nothing I'm interested in at this time. I really feel like I love working with small businesses. Love it. I love working with local things. Like, that is my passion. And right now I work with a lot of small businesses in home decor and jewelry and fashion, different things that might've started in Etsy on their own or in their basement. And my goal would be to have an AP Style line within their line. So I'm helping them and they're helping me. Instead of starting my own lines, I would love to have some of my favorite brands have an AP Style line within them. Maybe even just a one-time release. That's my goal for my actual personal line. There's lots of things down the road I would love to do. One of my favorite things that I do that really doesn't have anything to do with the business side of it is what you and I are doing right now. And I've been on different networks and talk shows and things. And I love that. I love the whole side of getting to meet people and talk and share. And, whether sometimes it's about date nights. I've done segments on that, or a segment on, making crafts with your kids, or a segment on how to style your family for family photos, or, all types of things. But I love to just get out there and meet people for different events. A lot of times lately it's been entertainment events, because people are not going to events where they advertise. They're not watching commercials like they used to.
Yeah.
Businesses are turning to influencers. And so they turn to us to market events that's coming out now so that people will tune into them, I've been doing some of that for country music singers and different entertainment avenues. And I love that too, especially with my roots in Tennessee. Anything with country music, I just really love.
Oh yeah. Now you've also, your daughter is she starting her own line, or you're helping, like, what's happening
with me?
Okay.
She, like myself, is very outgoing, and she's way more of a fashionista than I am. Actually, she'll be dressing me soon, but she is so creative. Like, she and I both, we could go to the flea market and come up with our outfit for a wedding. Seriously, it's not necessarily about, I do love luxury items, but I can mix them with something from the dollar store, anywhere. I love mixing high and low end. And my daughter's the same way, but to a fault. Sometimes she doesn't want to throw away a UPS box because her mind has so many ideas of what she could do with that box.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we need to keep everything. A piece of ribbon that was on a package, we need to keep that. She's got an idea for everything. And so I've always seen that creativity in her, and I know there's big things for her in her future, and she's got a heart of gold. And so she'd been begging me to do Instagram, and I said, "You're too young, baby. You're just, she was 7, she wanted to do Instagram. She's 9 now." And so she doesn't run her own page. We do it together. She can only get on there unless I'm with her. So I do control that. And it says, that it's run with her mom also. But we started her account, which is Anna Berkeley style, which is AB style, because I started noticing over the last year that there's really an absence of information for girls that's between the young girls' age. Even clothing lines that I represent and I've dressed her in for years, they quit at size 8. That's when they stop their line. And boys younger, but girls at size 8. And there's not a lot of stuff till they're a teenager at 13. And there's that niche that's missing from an 8 to 12-year-old. And I call it the tennis years. That they really are growing so much. What you say to them, what you do to them, that so much during that age is going to define, do they have self-confidence? Do they not? 100%. Going into those teenage years. And so I thought, you know what? We have so much we could offer. We could give ideas. We can do self-confidence. There's things that you could mix in there. And so I'm working with lines. I'm working with children's books, different things on her page that we're doing to show gifting ideas, things to read, devotionals, clothing, fashion, how to mix up what you already have in your closet, or a great look for under $20, just different things, because they're missing that age gap right now with girls. And those are the girls that really want to get on Instagram too, actually. They're watching moms. If you don't let them have an account, they want to watch your account.
Well, for sure. And I think too, the best thing I'm hearing about this is that it's a positive place, a safe place for young girls to go, because I think we need more of that. I see things that kind of blow my mind sometimes that, I know I wouldn't want my daughter to participate in or be influenced by. So I love that, AB is able to give this awesome, these influences that obviously a lot coming from you, but, she's in it in her own way. That's right. Yeah.
And she's got creative ideas that I wouldn't think of that's great for her age too. Like she loves doing things with t-shirts. I mean, the other day she got out a long sleeve t-shirt of mine and she styled it 8 different ways as a dress. So she'll use my clothing items, like the t-shirt of mine fits her as a dress. And she showed me how she had done like a strapless and used the arms and tied it. A strapless dress, just all these little creative ways. We're going to be sharing that this week on her page for spring break. But she just comes up with ideas too slime making. I don't know how to make slime, but that's really big to those girls. You know, they love it.
Love it.
Yeah,
That
so they
is
get to
so
share things on there and things they would like to do and things. So it's good. And like I said, if for nothing else, to give them ideas and confidence
the
that's
confidence is
positive and ways to
so
you
important.
can be a fashionable person without spending a lot of money. And that's the key, to teach people that early. It's okay to desire for things, but you've got to find that contentment within yourself and not have it in items, you know? And so if we could teach them that early, how to mix and match what they have, feel confident in doing their own thing, being a leader, not a follower. There's
Right.
just so much you can really instill in a young girl at that age, that I try to go back to that point in my life and what made the difference with me? What would I do different? You know?
Yeah. No, I think it's so important in that be a leader, not a follower, because without that confidence, I think there's, it's very difficult for a girl that age, and even, anyone my age, your age, whatever, to have that confidence of the discernment that we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not taught that and you don't know how to handle situations that you encounter, whether it be your fashion or something else that could be boys, it could be
Mm-hmm.
whatever, having that confidence, I think, is so important. And not all the kids are getting it at home, unfortunately.
Right. And I think they need it earlier than we did.
Yeah.
And I say that because my parents, when people have asked me, what did I have growing up? What did I have? I don't know. I felt so rich growing up because we had so much love in my house. I
Mhm.
mean, I never went to bed that my parents didn't tell me goodnight. They loved me. And things like that. Neither one of my parents graduated from college. It wasn't that they had these big careers. They worked for everything we had in our home. We didn't go out to eat a lot, but I mean, like I said, she made every meal special at home. If it was Jello, it was special. We had the love, and that's what a lot of people don't have. And I really think that's bigger than anything. I think it's bigger than financial status, anything like that for young kids right now, is to know that they're loved, and that actually that there's security in their home too, you know, and for mom, dad, for everyone. But with that said, I grew up with that confidence my parents had taught me, and still, even at my age, the cyberbullying is crazy. Like the things people will send you behind a message that they would never say to your face is a lot, and I can handle it. I'm fine. I grow from it. But if we don't teach these children this young, and younger than even I learned, because we didn't have this, there was no way for them to send me a message behind something. They had to write it on a piece of paper and hand it to me, you know, when I was growing up. And nowadays, these kids can really say some mean and hurtful things. And I've explained to my daughter, sometimes I don't even think they mean it. I think maybe they're having a bad day. We all have bad days, and their hormones are changing, and they probably would regret it later.
Yeah.
But we've just got to think twice before we type something and send something. And we got to teach these girls how to handle it, because they're going to get some bad things headed their way.
Sure. Well, I love that. And I know you have a theme. You do this theme thing, as you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, maybe this isn't the time for a spoiler, but if you're wanting to talk about this week's theme, or that's coming up later today, how will we find out?
No, I just announced it, so I do not mind a bit. I usually announce it on Monday, either around lunch or dinner. And this week's theme is called Lucky Charm. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of styling with greenery, because of it being St. Patrick's.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff with that. I'm going to be talking about little tips that I can share this week. I'm actually going to be doing some crafts and treats with my daughter that's using Lucky Charm cereal. We're going to do artwork together this week. Like I said, like the styling that's like the colorful rainbow colors, and then also with the green shamrocks. And I'm also going to be showing how that you can use just clippings from your yard and put them in pieces that you could get from Goodwill, or even some heirloom pieces you may have around your house, and totally set it somewhere different for a different look for the spring.
I love that. Quick tip, and I don't know this whole story. I have to go look it up, but I was listening to my church's sermon this morning while I was out on a run.
Yeah.
And I did not know that St. Patrick, actually, it's a biblical story. So yeah, again, I'm not going to tell the story the right way, but there was he was a believer, and he did some really amazing things in terms of trying to help others see the importance of God in our lives. So I wish I had that full story. I should have been prepared for that, but I'll just recommend everybody look that up who's
Okay.
interested. But the story is much deeper than we thought. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to wrap up here. And before we do, what are 3 things that you would like to leave with our audience? If you could only tell them 3 things, what would that be?
Okay. I would just say, like, if you were my best friend and you were asking me the same question, so just open-ended, but my focus is always God, first and foremost. It just is. And everyone's different, but I was grounded in that as a child. It's not something new in my life, and it's always been on the forefront. So anytime something comes up, whether it's a celebration in life that we're so happy about, or it's like that tough, challenging time, like I said, that I experienced a lot of this winter, just turn to Him. That would be it. First and foremost, my number one's God. That's the one person that's never going to fail us, the one and only person that will never disappoint us or fail us. We might not always get the answer that we ask for. We've got to ask for His will, not always ours. But my second one would be to date your spouse. And if you follow me, you know that that's really important. I've been with my husband now since I was 13 years old. We've grown up together. He is the light of my world. I'm not going to say we never have an argument. We do. We might argue over what we're having for lunch that day, but he's my rock. And it's always been in our house. If you ask our children who's the favorite, who's mom's favorite, who's dad's favorite, we both say each other. Our children know that we love each other more than we love them. We love them to pieces, but we're each other's first. And I a lot of people think that's backwards. And but to me, we'll always be there for one another. And our kids, we may fail at a lot of stuff as parents, but they're going to know that mom and dad love each other.
Well,
they're going to know how to love their spouse.
Yeah, you're the rock for them. So the stronger your love is for each other, it's actually going to be even stronger with them ultimately.
Exactly.
You. Yeah.
Exactly. And like I said, I fail at a lot of things, and I'll probably fail at motherhood because my number one is to date your spouse. But I try to do both the best of my ability. We always have that mom guilt, but I plan a date weekend with my husband once a month. And that's been an important thing for us. And there was times in life we couldn't afford them, but we might have takeout Chinese and rent a movie off of TV or watch an old film, but we made an initiative to make that time special for one another, light old candles around the house and rent an old movie, just to make it special for one another and make each other a first priority. And my last one would probably be, especially with the things that I've went through lately, I say this saying a lot, and I say, give people their flowers before their funeral. Mm-hmm. And I mean that in so many ways in life. Don't wait to tell people what they mean to you. Tell them now. If you got something could help someone out, share it with them. You've heard this saying before, to straighten someone's crown. It's so true. If you could help someone, why would you? I've never understood that. And in this business of being an influencer, a lot of times people don't share if they've learned knowledge. They don't share that with one another. And there's a lady who lives in Virginia, and she's got like 80,000 followers, and she's been a dear mentor to me. And she is older than myself, and she reached out to me multiple times and with advice. And she and I both share that with one another. We say, why? Why? I've never understood why it hurts to help someone else. It would hurt you, and it doesn't. If we could get past that barrier in life and help other people and just tell people what they mean to us and love us, because it seems like a lot of times in life we want to do that when they're gone. We realize it more then, and we really should do all that while they're living. And I've even told my husband, I'm like, I want to give what I want to see people have of myself one day. I don't want them to inherit it when I'm gone. I want to give it to them myself.
Yeah, let's lift each other up.
Yeah, I want to give it to them. Yeah, if I want Anna Berkeley or my kids Green, John Crew, I want them to have something. I'm going to give it to them,
Right.
So I think just being real and giving people their flowers. Don't be afraid to tell them how much they really mean to you. Even men, That's men, women, sometimes men are afraid to tell you their feelings, but if someone really has been a mentor to you and they've meant the world to you, send them, if you can't do it face to face, send them a text. They need to know those things.
I love it. Well, this has been just so beautiful and enriching in so many ways. I know that everyone's going to feel the same as I do. I love that we have connected. It brings tears to my eyes. You're there in Livingston. I wish I could be there with you in person, but I'm so grateful for what you're doing to inspire others. Keep influencing. We love it so much. Thank you for joining me
Thank you so
today.
much. And thank you for asking me to be a guest.
Well, my pleasure. I'll see you later.
Bye.